Harbor Freight isn't for everyone, but recently I found myself going there more and more often. And that's because the more I dig, the more I find from this bargain discount store. So come along with me today as we explore 5 more viral tools available at Harbor Freight. If there's one thing I've learned about Harbor Freight, it's that you can't just buy anything on their shelf. You have to do a little bit of digging, and sometimes a lot of digging. So I moseyed on over to Harbor Freight and went Harbor Freight deep by going down every single aisle in that store. And surprisingly, I walked away from there with some pretty cool stuff, and I ended up picking up a total of 5 items. And I think all of these items might benefit you in your shop. So let's dive right in and take a look at our first item. Our first item of the day is the Pittsburgh Multi-Square. Let's give it a quick look. Speaking of squares, women are a lot like square roots. If they're under 25, you do them in your head. So I'm a sucker for a multi-tool, but in this case, we're dealing with a multi-square. So what the heck is a multi-square? As you can probably tell, this thing doesn't look like any other square you've seen. And that's exactly why I got this tool. So let's take it out of the package and take a closer look. The first thing that we should talk about with this tool is that it's very affordable, coming in at today's pricing of just $7.99. But what do you get for this price? Well, actually quite a lot. One of the first things that you'll notice is this thing's got 3 levels right on the frame of the tool. And all of these are green bubble levels, giving you a quick reference for not only horizontal, but also 90 and 45. Right beyond those levels, you're going to find a wing nut, which allows you to instantly transform this tool into a T-bevel. And in this capacity, it has a wide range of motion, going from 0 all the way up to 270 degrees. And just like with any other T-bevel, once you have your angle in place, you can lock it down with the same wing nut. But there's even another feature that goes along with the T-bevel feature. If we look at the base of the tool, you're going to notice a little window right beside that wing nut. This is a small angle gauge giving you your degree measurement going from 0 all the way up to 165 degrees, which is a pretty nice little quick reference to have when you're taking your measurements. And once you take this gauge and set it to 90, you can instantly use this multi-square as a square. And although I'd probably use a stationary square for that purpose, it's still a nice feature to have. Now, although the base is plastic, the blade is actually stainless steel. And this is a one-sided blade that's 7 inches long or 18 centimeters. And the last feature of this unique square is right on the tip of the tool. If we look at the very end of the tool, you're going to find a bronze knob. If we pull this out, you can see there's a little scribing tool. It's this little guy that can allow you to quickly and easily scribe out a line when your pencil is not available. And it's all these features in a nice collapsible design that's less than $8 is why I think this is a great pickup from Harbor Freight. Well, if you're in the market for a cheap T-bevel with just a few added features, I think that's a great option, but we've got a heck of a lot more tools to check out from Harbor Freight. So let's dive into our next one, which I'm pretty excited about. Next up, we have the Bryan Underhood Rechargeable Work Light. Let's give it a quick look. Speaking of lights, what's the difference between a pregnant woman and a light bulb? Well, you can unscrew a light bulb. So this interesting little light is the most expensive thing we'll be taking a look at today, coming in at today's pricing of $29.99. But if it has all the features that it claims, I think this could be a valuable addition to my shop. So if we take this thing out of the box, one of the first things that you'll notice is this thing looks a heck of a lot like a lightsaber. And frankly, if it doesn't work out, that's exactly what you could use this thing for. But let's hope we get more use out of it than that. Let's take a look at what comes inside the box. Since this is a rechargeable light, you're going to get 2 charging cords. Not only do you get a standard plug-in cord, but you're also going to get a cord that can plug into your cigarette lighter. And I think you get that cigarette lighter cord as this product is primarily marketed towards the automotive industry. Now let's take a look at the light itself. One of the first things you'll notice is this is a long light, coming in at 24 inches long. And if you haven't noticed already, this is an LED light with 2 brightness settings, a low and a high. And you may have noticed that I turned this light on with one of the handles, but there's actually 2 of them. And both of these handles are almost completely identical, except for one main feature, as one of these handles has a sealable jack that you can plug your charger into. Let's take a quick tour of the other features of each handle. Both handles have a power button that not only allow you to turn the light on, but also toggle through the light settings. Now, even though the light itself is round, the handles have a hexagonal shape, which prevents it from rolling. And since this light has 845 lumens, it has a wide area of illumination. So how do you mount this thing? Well, there's a couple of different ways. Let's take a look at those. This leads us back to the handles. If we look at the very end of the handle, you'll see there's a hook, and this hook rotates in 360 degrees. This means it can easily be hooked up to many surfaces with very little effort. But that's not the only way you can secure this light. Right next to that hook, on the end of both of the handles, you're going to notice a couple of metal tabs. These are actually magnets. These magnets on both sides are powerful enough to hold the entire light up just by the two magnets. And with that type of flexibility, you can really have light with you wherever you need it. But let me show you the main reason why I got this light. It has everything to do with sanding. Having a light like this allows you to inspect large surface areas that you're sanding. By placing the light in a dark room right next to your workpiece, you can look for imperfections that you need to sand, allowing you to create a surface with fewer imperfections and is that much smoother. And if you're someone like me that loves creating tables and desks, this is a no-brainer add in my book. Well, I'm pretty stoked about the first two items we've taken a look at, but we've got more items to check out. Let's move on to our next. Next up, we have the 50-inch Pittsburgh Clamp and Cut Edge Guide. Let's give it a look. 50 inches, huh? That reminds me of a little research that I did on last vacation. Did you know a peach pie in Jamaica costs 50 bucks? Yeah, a cherry pie in Antigua costs 55. And lastly, a key lime pie in the Dominican costs $68. Yeah, those are the pie rates of the Caribbean. So this is an item I was really quite excited to see when I saw it on the shelves at Harbor Freight. Now I chose to go with the 50-inch version, which goes for about $17.99, but they also make a 24-inch version which goes for just over 10 bucks. But in my opinion, you're going to want to spring for the larger one, as this will allow you to cross-cut through 4x8 sheets of plywood. So let's take a dive into how this thing works. To understand that, we need to turn the tool over. This saw guide has two clamping jaws that are meant to be attached to sheet goods. Both jaws have a perforated rubber tab, but they're just a little bit different. Let's take a look at the first one. This first jaw is mobile. By simply depressing the metal tab on the back, you can move it back and forth until it rests up right against your plywood. But that's only done after you place your first jaw. Let's take a look at the other jaw. The other jaw once again has a pad and is non-mobile and has a lever on the very back. To place the saw guide, the two jaws need to be working in combination with each other. Let's do a real-life example and take a look at how this thing works. Let's say we want to make a cut along this red line. We first want to know the distance between the edge of our circular saw plate and the blade itself. In this case, about 3¼ inches. So we'll mark off 3¼ inches from our cut line to give us reference for that saw guide. With those markings now made, I now want to take the non-adjustable side with the handle and place it right up against the edge of the plywood. With that side in place, we can now take the other side of the saw guide, line it up to our other markings, and move the adjustable clamp to the edge of the plywood, making sure that it's firmly touching that plywood. And with all those alignments made, we can push the lever down on the other side to lock it into place. And with everything in place, we can grab our circular saw and cut right down that line. And with that cut made, you can see how accurate we were cutting right down that line. But another unique feature of this guide has to do with cutting angles. If we look at one of the clamping jaws, you can see that it can swivel left to right at 45 degrees. This means you can even cut moderate angles with this guide, giving it that much more flexibility. So if you're one of those people that's not quite ready to invest in a track saw and you're getting tired of using the old 2x4 and clamp trick, this may be a great option for you. And at under $18, I don't think you can afford to overlook the value of this incredible tool. Well, we're getting through them today, and I'm pretty impressed with all of these viral tools from Harbor Freight that are less than $30. But we've got two more products to take a look at, so let's move on to our next. Before we do that, however, I ask you to do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it really does help out this woodworking channel. Also, if you haven't already, check out my website, FlynnDoggWoodwork.com. There you can find all sorts of fun woodworking accessories like all the t-shirts that I wear in my videos. And just like with all my videos, if any of the tools we take a look at interest you, I'll leave links in the description below so that you can go check them out for yourself. And finally, if you'd like to support the channel further, check out my channel memberships, where you can get early access to all my videos as well as one member video a week. Now let's get back to that fourth tool. Next up, we have two sets of US General drawer liners. Let's give them a look. All this talk about drawers reminds me. I think for my birthday, my wife's getting me a build-it-yourself scale model of a horse. Yeah, I found a piece of it in her bedside drawer. So why the heck would you need drawer liners in a shop? Well, the same reason that some people use yoga mats. You see, when I was finishing up a project last week, I realized that I've got no grip in my shop. Whether you need it for sanding or routing, sometimes your wood surfaces can get away from you. In fact, if we look at this footage here, you can see how much this tabletop is moving all over my tabletop surface. So I knew I had to put a stop to it, and that's exactly why I got these liners. So obviously I got two types of liners here. I first got the mesh, which is $5.99 for a roll, and then I got the solid, which is $7.99 for a roll. And both of these liners are 18 inches wide by 72 inches long. And the reason I got two of them is for two different purposes. Let's first take a look at the mesh one. One of the first things that you'll notice is once it's on top of your tabletop, it's not going anywhere. Not only that, but if I place a board on top of this mesh liner, it's not going anywhere either. Which in my opinion is ideal for sanding, giving your workpiece a firm place to stay while you go to do your finish sanding. But why would I pick the mesh liner for sanding over the solid liner? Well, let's take a look at the board. If we look at the side and the end of the board, you can see that all that sawdust is able to fall through the mesh grate. This allows your board to maintain its grip to your table while all the sawdust falls through the holes. And if we lift up that board and remove the mat, you can see that sawdust pattern on the top of the table. And it's because of this that you can maintain a grip through your entire sanding process. But let's take a look at that solid liner. For the solid liner, we once again have a firm grip on the tabletop surface. But just like before, we can also get a solid grip on our workpiece itself. Now you could indeed sand on this solid liner, but what I envision it for is using my router. It's this liner that's going to be able to give you just enough grip to do some of your final touches to your workpieces, like putting a chamfer on the edge. Not only will this give you a little bit more control with your router, but it's also going to make routing some of your smaller pieces a heck of a lot safer. And it's this fact alone that I think it's definitely worth it to pick up some of these cheap but very useful drawer liners. Well, we're getting right through them, and we're finally down to our last viral Harbor Freight tool for under $30. Let's give it a look. Our last item of the day is the US General Mini Toolbox. Let's give it a look. What's a toolbox and a deadbeat dad have in common? Screws, nuts, and bolts. So if you remember, a few weeks back, I picked up this Cobalt mini toolbox from Lowe's for about 20 bucks. And I probably got about 10 comments saying you need to check out the US General one from Harbor Freight. So that's exactly what I did. So let's take a look at how this US General mini toolbox compares. So right off the bat, I'm seeing almost zero differences between these two toolboxes, other than the price, with the Cobalt being $19.99 while the US General is $1 cheaper. But as I dig a little bit deeper, there are a couple of two significant differences. If you remember from my Lowe's video where I took a look at the Cobalt, you'll remember that one of my biggest complaints was that the Cobalt didn't have any liners. In fact, in that video, I even went as far as to make my own liner for the top shelf of the Cobalt. And even though we just took a look at some liners, I don't think I'm going to need them for this US General mini toolbox. Not only does that top shelf have a liner, but if we open up each one of the bottom drawers, you'll see that they have liners as well. The next key difference between these two mini toolboxes has to do with the magnetic locking system on the drawers. Now, although they both have magnetic drawer locks, there's a significant difference between the two toolboxes. The Cobalt has a much weaker magnet system. In fact, if I hold it upside down, you'll see that both drawers can fall out. But the US General has a much more secure hold. In fact, when I try to hold it upside down, you can see that those drawers stay in place. And finally, I only see one other difference between the two toolboxes, and it has everything to do with the lid. First off, the US General has a couple of rubber pads right on the top of the lid to give it a softer close. And secondly, unlike the Cobalt, which has a hinge that can open up over 180 degrees, the US General has a hinge that opens up less than 90 degrees. And I really like the way that US General has a limit at 90 degrees so that it doesn't open too far. And other than that, everything else with this toolbox appears to be identical, including the manufacturing materials as well as the dimensions. And for $1 less, I think it's an easy decision to go for the US General over the Cobalt. Well, I'm quite pleased at all 5 items we took a look at today, and I really appreciate you joining me on checking out these 5 viral tools from Harbor Freight that are less than 30 bucks. Be sure to do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it truly does help. Also, just like I always do, I'll leave links to all the tools we took a look at in the description below so that you can go check them out for yourself. And finally, if you'd like to support this channel, check out my channel memberships where you can get early access to all my videos as well as one member video a week. Until next time, take care as always. All right, let's get it, folks. You know, I'm sorry and I apologize generally have the same meaning, except at a funeral. How about this one? You know, generally I don't make fun of short people. They have a hard enough time putting food on the table. All right, last try. Did you hear that a lot of Hitler's generals disappeared after the war and became animal doctors? Yeah, they were veterinarians. too soon.